There's nothing worse than submitting an application for a job that really interests you only to be left wondering what's next. Will they call? What's the next step? Some applicant tracking software systems, or ATS, will send you an automated response that your resume was received, which is a good first step. Some will tell you within hours or days if you are no longer in the running. But what about those that don't tell you anything? What's the protocol then? It's not like the old days when you applied for a job and you were nearly guaranteed your resume would be seen by a person. Today, there are some hoops that your application must jump through before it is accepted. When you apply for a position online, no matter where you find it, the first thing that typically happens is that your resume is scanned by an ATS system. During this process, the system is looking at your resume for keywords that match the role. You must update your resume each time to ensure you're including the right keywords and your resume is easily scannable by the ATS system. Once your resume passes through the initial ATS screen, it will be put into a queue to be reviewed by a person. It may or may not get into their hands though, depending on how many people apply and how many resumes are physically reviewed. Sometimes, if HR receives enough applications, they may only review 10 to 15 at a time, and if yours isn't in that group, it may get skipped. If and when a person reviews your application, they'll also look at your social media profiles. LinkedIn is the top consideration, but many decision makers will also review Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and any other platforms they use regularly. This is another way for your application to be rejected, unfortunately, if your digital footprint isn't positive. If your application gets through these first two steps, you may receive a phone call or an email request for a quick phone or video interview. This is typically another screening measure to ensure that the information on your resume and application is accurate, as well as to weed out ineligible candidates. A member of the human resources team is often the person to conduct this screening. Once you pass through a phone or video screening, your resume will then be forwarded to the decision maker or hiring committee. At that point, you will be scheduled for a video or in-person interview. There may just be one or a series of meetings with various members of the team before you are removed from the running or offered a position. Clearly, there are several steps you must go through to move from submitting your application to getting an interview and, of course, receiving an offer. And with more than 200 applications received for an average position, the goal of each step is to whittle that number down significantly. That's why you must ensure your resume is flawless and you are applying to jobs you're qualified for. But could you get around some of the issues in the screening timeline? Possibly. The most effective way to ensure your application is accepted and moved through the steps is with a personal connection. As soon as you apply for a job, identify the job poster, talent acquisition specialist, or hiring manager and reach out to that person directly. Your best bet for doing this is through LinkedIn, where you can find the person's name and send an in-mail. Check out the written lessons for an example. After your initial outreach to ensure your application is received, your next job is to wait. Wait to see if you get a notice. Wait to see if you receive a call to interview. But you'll do yourself a disservice if you wait in vain. Most employers and recruiters expect you to follow up after applying. In fact, they feel it's an essential part for the application process. Many decision makers agree that 2 weeks is the ideal time to follow up. Sending an email is preferred, although some job seekers will call or even show up when possible and appropriate. The main goal here is to restate your interest and qualifications for the position while sharing your gratitude for considering you. Check out the written lessons for an example of what you might send. If you continue to not hear back, you can try reaching out a second time, but don't go beyond that. Although it can often take several weeks for a hiring committee to make a decision, offer the role to a candidate, and get them started, that doesn't mean they want to hear from other candidates continually. Your well-timed follow-up could arrive at just the moment the candidate they've offered the role backs out, which would be great for you, or not. Either way, only follow up once or twice. There are several reasons you might not be hearing back when you send out resume and your application has been accepted. They range from the layout of your resume to your qualifications. Armed with some ideas on why you might not be hearing back, you'll be better able to improve your odds moving forward. No matter how amazing or qualified you are, if you're applying for positions online, the likelihood is that your resume is going to run up against ATS systems. These are programs that don't know you and honestly don't care. They're just looking for a certain amount of experience and the right keywords to move your application through to the next steps. Refer to our lesson on how to update your resume to match each position to learn more about what ATS systems are looking for. Whether you have too much experience or not enough could be a determining factor in why an application doesn't turn into an interview for a certain role. Unfortunately, in most cases, you won't be told that you're not qualified, so you're left to wonder what the problem was. Continue to scrutinize roles and apply for those for which you are the best fit, knowing that there are currently more roles than candidates. So even if you're not 100% match, you may be close. Although it's common to make an error when you've looked at your resume over and over, there are some mistakes that can't be overlooked by a hiring manager. These can include glaring spelling mistakes and information that doesn't match your LinkedIn profile, leaving the reader guessing. Always review your resume with fresh eyes when you apply to positions, and make sure your personal brand is consistent across your resume and LinkedIn profile. This is a hard one to classify, since fit is relative. It could be that the hiring manager looked at your social media profiles and found something disturbing there, or that you listed an interest on your resume that doesn't jibe with the corporate culture. It could even be that you're too old or too young for the company, although you'll never be told that ever. And it might just be that there were other applications that were a better fit than yours, and there's nothing you did wrong or that you could change. Companies love hiring referrals from current employees, especially if they love that employee. They may also already have a person in mind for this role, but because HR told them they have to post the position, they did. Either way, they're not open to new candidates for the role. Of course, there's no way you could be privy to this information, and the best you might get back is that they've already filled the role or chosen to go in a different direction. Even though applying for jobs may sound like an uphill battle, don't despair. In some instances, everything will go your way and you'll get a call within days of applying. Or you'll follow up after 2 weeks, move your application to the top of the pile, and get called for an interview. No matter how you get there, be grateful. Even if it took weeks to hear back, don't mention the timeline or waiting. Express your appreciation that they've reached out to you and be prepared to rock the interviews that will follow. Unfortunately, applying for positions doesn't mean getting called for an interview is a sure thing. You can, however, increase your chances of moving to the next step. To do so, understand how the application process works and your role in it. Reach out to the person who posted the job immediately to reiterate your interest in the position. Follow up on your application within 2 weeks. By following a few simple tips in the application process, you'll increase the chances that your application will be accepted, and you'll secure the interview.